All right, hello everyone, and welcome to Brandon at Random Reviews podcast. I am Brandon Griffiths, and I am trying this out for the first time today, so please bear with me if there are any technical difficulties or gaps in content. Thank you. So I want to talk about something I was thinking about yesterday. So my dad was telling me about this movie he thought I should review or just check out, which is called Taking Chance with Kevin Bacon. Apparently it was like a TV movie, and it was I had never heard it. It's from like 10 plus years ago. I had never heard of it. Didn't know it came out, not once. Didn't know what he was talking about when he described it, and I looked it up on IMDb, and it's got like a solid 7.4 out of 10 on IMDb, which is a very good rating, especially for a TV movie. So I started thinking about it, and like, you know, the movie's on HBO Max, and I'm the type of guy who's prone to just check these sort of things out, you know? I mean, I'm usually looking for a good movie to check out, and it's a lot, you know. It's nice when somebody suggests stuff to me. You know, the only problem is like in the past, my dad has kind of he's recommended movies to me that are what I would refer to as mediocre at best, and like have no merit in being suggested to another human being after you see them. I mean, like he recommended I see The Intern with Anne Hathaway and Robert De Niro, where Robert De Niro is like this old man who goes to be an intern at a company, and it's just, it doesn't do anything for me. You know what I mean? They're both talented actors and everything. I don't want to take away from that, but it's like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? Like, what's the point of this movie? And I mean, I'm sure there's more to it than that, but I just kind of lost interest in the movie pretty quickly, but I finished it. So what I want to talk about is how I've come to this conclusion that, you know, like, I'll write my reviews, I'll do my, you know, my short little, you know, 5-6 paragraph reviews where I'll talk about a movie I just watched, and I'll give a rating, and I'll tell you if it's available on streaming or whatever. So, but the problem is I will not directly suggest movies to anybody anymore, movies or TV shows. I found it too frustrating in the past to like go, you know, it's like I would talk about, you know, like, oh, you know, you really should check out this movie. And, you know, it was difficult because it was a movie that I thought this friend or family member would really enjoy, and they didn't watch it, right? And so that would be like the drawback, is it's like, I'd say, check this movie out, you know, you'll really like it, I think it's right up your alley. And they'll say, okay, you know, they kind of have this dismissive way about them, and then it's like, they don't watch it, and then they like want to talk to you about these other movies that they watched that were terrible movies and just had no business being watched by anybody. You know, like they shouldn't even have had an inclination to watch them at all. And then it's like you kind of get like, it's like a little irksome. It's like you get a little annoyed by them because they want to make, you know, their own choices, and that's fine, but it's like, you can't throw my suggestion a bone real quick. You know, you can't just chat about, you know, or chat about it with me after you've seen it and let me know what you thought. I mean, is it really that bad that you don't want to watch it? And that's where I just kind of came to my conclusion. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not suggesting movies to people. I'm not telling people that they are, you know, that they need to see something. It's just kind of like, if they come to me asking for a suggestion, I will, you know, I will give them recommendations, but I will not unsolicited give them recommendations at all. It just it hurts too much. So I mean, I'm kind of at wit's end, like with that. So I've kind of enacted that policy of like, okay, no more recommendations. We're not doing this anymore. I'm just going to review my movies. I'm going to talk about them. If somebody, if I say I saw a movie and somebody asks me about it, I'll tell them what I felt about it. But I'm not going there anymore. I'm done with it. So speaking of movies, which is the topic of this podcast, so that's a terrible segue, but the movie Top Gun Maverick premiered this weekend, Memorial Day weekend release, featuring, of course, Tom Cruise. It's, a sequel that is, 35 years in the making, 37, 30 something. Yeah. Anyway, it's a very big gap between original and sequel. And what's funny is it's like, it's partially my Tom Cruise thing. I'm not a big Tom Cruise fan. I don't generally like his acting style or his way about him on camera. Not a fan. I just don't have any inclination to see this movie at all. At all. And like, I see previews for it and I see that it's performing well at the box office. And I think to myself, what are we doing here? Why are we, Tom Cruise, he legitimately does have movies like Jack Reacher, the first one. I never saw the second one. I heard it was terrible. And Edge of Tomorrow, Live, Die, Repeat, or whatever you want to call it. He has good movies, a lot of the Mission Impossible movies are really good movies. Granted, I will say, despite them being good movies, I think they would be great movies if somebody other than Tom Cruise was portraying the character, but that's neither here nor there. I try so hard with Tom Cruise, and it's just, he does a lot of annoying stuff, and I can't wrap my head around it. And so I see that, Top Gun Maverick had the highest opening gross, for Tom Cruise's entire career this weekend, which is congratulations, that's great, I just don't, it doesn't get me there, it doesn't make me want to see it anymore, and it doesn't do much for me to see it. The issue with Tom Cruise has been well documented throughout my movie reviewing career. For instance, Jerry Maguire was not it was a movie that I think I would have liked more had Tom Cruise not been the star and had Cuba Gooding Jr. not been such a human piece of dog shit. And like I said, it's not that big of a deal. It's just I don't like certain actors or actresses that have these reputations, and they just don't seem to, they don't do it for me, they don't. And I'm the first to admit, if there's an actor that comes out and they start doing really well in movies, for instance, Matthew McConaughey was before what was it called, Dallas Buyers Club, when he won the Oscar for that movie, he really brought it home. He really sold the serious role. And before that, he was in what? He was in Fool's Gold. He was in How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. He was in, he was that character, the caricature of a character in Dazed and Confused, albeit, it was a good movie and a lovable character. He was a sleazy piece of shit in the movie. But like the fact that he like turned around and decided, hey, I can fucking I have the chops to fucking act, I can actually do this, and it's not, the end of the world for me. I really, I think that like with him, I'm now a Matthew McConaughey fan. There are a lot of actors that have done that have taken an excellent. I mean, like Robert Pattinson, not just because of Batman, but like Robert Pattinson, people want to make fun of him for the Twilight movies, and they kind of should. I mean, that's completely reasonable to make fun of somebody for. He's not proud of those movies, and he doesn't have to be ashamed of those movies. They were successful. If you're a young actor and you don't have any experience, and somebody agrees to make you the star of their vampire franchise for teens that is going to make millions and billions of dollars, then like who are you to turn them down? You know what I mean? If it's going to get you exposure, and like look at like he's pivoted so hard from that role in those Twilight movies to actually be a solid actor in many other movies that are like I think what's the one it's called? I think Good Times he was good in it. The movie itself kind of fell short for me. It didn't really feel like there was much substance there. The Lighthouse, he seemed to be good in. It was not my kind of movie, but like just as examples of like him not being in Twilight, him bringing it home and trying to do better, take better roles and perform on a different level. Other than what has come out recently, one of the things the last time I went to the theaters, which was to see Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, check out my review on my Facebook page or my WordPress site, brandonatrandom.wordpress.com. I saw a preview before Doctor Strange, and it was for a movie that I had heard about that was coming out that was going to be the sequel to the Avatar movie from, the James Cameron one from, the early mid 2000s, whatever. I hate referring to anything in the post 90s world because nobody knows. It's like if I say it was in the 2000s, are you taking that to mean it was from 2000 until 2022, or are you talking it was in the first decade of the 2000s? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So you take this, and you go, okay. I mean, it took me well over 10 years to finally sit down and watch that first Avatar movie. And, it's like my cousins were telling me I really had to see it. They really loved it and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, whatever. It's been, it's a popular movie, and I'm one of those people that it's like if a lot of people talk about a movie or like tell me that it's good or I see it referenced somewhere, I really want to check it out and I want to get it in my mind, like what is this movie? Is this actually a good movie? Does it merit being referenced or praised by people outside of outside of a theater? I mean, I don't know. But like Avatar, for me, it was just like it wasn't that great. Like it was decent. It was an alright movie. It was super expensive, and like you could see that because like for the era in which this movie came out, I want to say, and don't quote me on this, I want to say it was like 2006 maybe that it came out. And it was, I think they said it was like a $300 million movie or something like that. And it was like by far the most expensive movie that they had ever made to that point. And it was like so much CGI, you couldn't even fucking handle it, But I mean, like, the story is pretty basic. Like, basically these people are going to go in, this like military group, I guess. I can't, don't quote me on this stuff. I can't remember the exact plot of the movie, but like, basically, like, they're like, this group is going to infiltrate this this other group of beings, by imitating them, and making themselves look like them, and then like using that to infiltrate and like use whatever resources they have that are in high demand. There's a love story, and there's but there's like not many. I think like maybe Sigourney Weaver is in it and Zoe Saldana is in it, but I don't remember anybody else being in that movie. I mean, I'd have to actually look. But I mean, long story short is, I don't give a shit about Avatar. I guess I didn't realize that like this was a thing people were wanting, Yeah, Sam Worthington is in it, and Michelle Rodriguez, okay, I know her, but like Sam Worthington, if you put a gun to my head and asked me to like picture him in my brain, I would, you'd have to shoot me. Like, I mean, that would be impossible for me to do. I know the name, but I wouldn't recognize him as a human being if I just saw him out of nowhere. This gets me thinking, okay, so back in the day, there were, you remember, like, back when it was, like, a huge deal that, like, Kazaa was out, or, like, Napster, or LimeWire, any of these, like, it was always music downloading services, because, like, you wouldn't dream of downloading a video from these fucking things, you know what I mean? It was just, like, that was gonna bog down your computer for a decade if you tried to download a movie or a TV show. And so it was mostly music, that was how a lot of people got them. They would download the music, and then they would save the files to their computer, and then they could burn them to a CD. And that was when, like, literally every household seemed like they had one of those spindles of the CDRs in their home office or whatever. Like, they didn't really have any other way to get music, especially like individual tracks. Like, are you kidding? You couldn't even do it. You had to buy a whole CD, and then you find out that, oh, guess what? Headstrong is the only song Trapped really has going for them, and they're not going to go anywhere from here. Sorry. Hate to break it to you. But, like, like with that, there's obviously, like, the ethical dilemma of that. Like, if you have enough of a conscience, you're looking at music you want to download, and it's like, the music is like, I mean, it could be anybody's music. It could be, it could be an indie artist. It could be a major label artist. It could be anything on these, those illegal sites, those programs. But, like, if you look at it, they're not, like, you're not giving them any money. You know what I mean? There's no revenue for them to be had. And, that was why, like, one of the more popular bands that spoke out against these services was Metallica. And it was like Lars Ulrich, different people from different aspects of the music industry were not in, openly not in favor of these things. And it's like, I can't really fight them on it. It's not like they don't have a valid point. You know what I mean? If you want to listen to somebody's music, yeah, you should pay for their music. You should legitimately be getting their music and making it a point to pay, because that revenue is going to them. So my point here is, when I buy when I buy a Blu-ray or a DVD, if it's if it's not too encrypted, if it's within my means, I will save that movie to my computer literally, legitimately as a backup, okay? So, like, if anything ever happens where, something gets damaged, I still have a copy of a movie that I want to, if I want to watch it, I still can, and I have every right to. And, I mean, the only thing is with it is it's like, is it okay? They say it's, if you're just using it as a backup and you're not sharing it with people and you're not, making you're not like distributing it or anything like that, it's fine. You know what I mean? You can have a backup. It's not, nobody's going to be upset with you. And I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with it. Like I'm just like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to save these. If my computer can manage it, I will have my computer, rip these movies. And I mean, it's nice though, because like, so I have like, there is the ripped copies, which are like the unofficial digital copies of movies. And then you have the digital purchased movies that are, as, like they're actually legally, like unquestionably legal, and they are, exactly what you want them to be. Like, I mean, they're great quality. They're accessible from anywhere. You can download them to listen to when you don't have to watch when you don't have an internet connection. You can also, make it a point to collect all of these movies, and then like it gets to a point where it's like, yeah, you've amassed quite a selection. And like a lot of the Blu-rays and DVDs these days, they come with a digital copy. Like I remember when that first started happening, I was like, I mean, I'll redeem this, but what the fuck do I give a shit about having a digital copy? Why don't I just put the Blu-ray in? And, I mean, before very long, it became like, oh shit, I really do want a digital copy, and it's really nice to be able to have those. And, like what's awesome is people also don't, like, I've had friends in the past that have like bought physical copies of movies, and they're like, hey, do you use these digital copies? Because I don't. And, like, if you want mine, I will give it to you. And I'm like, fuck yeah, I'll fucking take your, like, and to me, that's not morally reprehensible to take that digital copy from them. I mean, it's probably not what the studios would want you to do if truth be told, but like, it's so good that like, you can have those kinds of trade-offs where it's like, yeah, I've got a physical copy of this movie and it's, giving me a free digital copy, but I have no desire to own that digital copy at all, So, I mean, I've amassed a bigger digital collection of movies than I have ever had physically in my life. Like, I think I have somewhere between like 650 and 700 digital movies, and these span all over the place. The only frustration I have are the movies that are like, because of like, studio rights or, contracts that were written and are out of date with, like streaming services. You can't, like there's like perfect example for me, Young Frankenstein, one of my favorite comedies of all time, is not available on digital purchase. So like sometimes you'll see it on like a streaming service, and that's great, but like you can't actually buy it to keep when it's on when it's on a streaming service like that. Like they don't have the rights to it. And it's the same way with like Dogma And there's a bunch of them. I'd like to just sit and list them all day long, but like it's not necessary. So, yeah. So I mean, like I've really hooked or latched on to the old digital movie phenomenon. It's been it's been so great being able to like I can say like it used to be when I was going on a long trip and I wanted to watch movies in the car. I would for a while it was like it was VHSs, so it was like we'd bring like a TV VCR combo little like 9-inch TV, and I'd watch Happy Gilmore 600 times on those those trips. But like so you could only bring a few movies because you only had so much space, and then it became okay. I've got DVDs and I've got a laptop that still had a disc drive, which many of them do not anymore. And then you take the laptop and you use that to watch, and then you have to make sure it was plugged in so you wouldn't lose a charge, and you'd have to it was in the days where you had to like put a pillow on your lap and set the laptop on top of the pillow because the laptop would get so hot running trying to keep up with that fucking movie. And like it's become now it's like I have an iPad and I can go ahead and download a bunch of movies to it and have them to watch on the road when I want to, no questions. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. I can go on vacation, and it's like if I want to watch something at night before I go to bed, it's on my iPad, and I can fit dozens of movies depending on the quality I choose. That's the other thing, is if you go like standard def, you can fit like 20-30 movies, and that's wonderful. I mean, your iPad is typically only like capable of HD, so it's like you're on such a small screen, who gives a flying shit about HD? But like I also have bad vision, so like for me to get hung up on HD would be completely ridiculous. So yeah, I mean I've gotten into that. I love the convenience factor of it. You can't sell me on it enough. And then with that, like, so I mean you've got the digital movie collection is enhanced by so like there are some major contributors to the digital movie purchasing options. So you've got Vudu, which is exclusively video streaming, purchasing, renting service, and you can watch a ton of different movies on it. It's got a lot of stuff on it, and I mean there's very little that it doesn't have that other streaming services do, because it's just the way it is. Other one is Apple TV basically has like the same kind of setup where it's got a full selection of movies and TV shows. Amazon Prime Video, like not I should say Amazon Video or Amazon Instant Video. Boy, it's hard to talk about Amazon stuff and like be clear on what you're talking about. So the not free Amazon Video, where you have to buy the movies individually, it's just like any of the other ones where it's like you can buy a ton of movies, you can buy a ton of TV shows. And I will say that like depending on the like movie wise, it's not a huge leap, but like TV wise, it can kind of suck to like if you download on the wrong, or if you buy on the wrong service for TV, you're kind of hosed. But like the reason why you're not really hosed on movies is if I buy, let's say I find a movie that is on sale for $4.99 on Amazon, right? And it's $9.99 on all the other streaming or all the other video services, and if you have which is free, you have Movies Anywhere is a service that connects all of these movie services, these video services together, but it's only for the movies. It doesn't include TV shows. The movie services, it connects them. So if I buy it on Apple, but I don't really like watching it on the Apple app, it will also show up in my library for Vudu and Amazon and wherever else that I have an account linked. And it's beautiful. I mean, it's just a wonderful little option. You don't have to go to too much trouble to make it work, and you'll thank yourself for all the money that you're going to save. I mean, I still, cynical me, I'm still apprehensive to put all my eggs in that basket. And I don't like to, even though, okay, let's say, because I prefer Vudu, but I don't want to buy all of my movies on Vudu, just because I like Vudu. It's I've got to, especially if they're movies anywhere, I will buy them on other services deliberately, even if it's no difference in price. It's I want to have some on Amazon because Vudu is its own service. It used to be, I don't know if it still is, but it used to be owned by Walmart, and I think Walmart sold interest in it, so it was it went to being owned, I think Fandango bought them out a couple years ago. And my concern is it's just a video streaming service. It's not it's got a lot backing it. So it's I can trust Apple is going to stay afloat. I can trust Amazon is going to stay afloat. And I can trust Google is going to stay afloat. If I get my movies on those services and I watch them through those services, or if I buy it on Amazon, I can watch it on Vudu because I prefer Vudu. It's it makes me feel better that I'm if I get screwed and I can't keep all of my Vudu library, which by the way is still gonna fucking destroy me deep down, but I'll at least have something left over, that I won't have to repurchase, and that's what's key is, I mean, amassing a library for me, I've stopped doing it so much, and I'll get into it a little bit later, but amassing a library to me has been so beneficial because it's I can watch whatever I want whenever I want. Okay, so on Vudu I have some selections. I'll cover a couple of them today, but there's there you have lists on Vudu now. They didn't used to have those, but you would you can basically make playlists of movies, or whatever, and and you can just put it all okay, these are all fall movies, or these are Christmas movies, or these are Batman movies, or whatever, and you can just make an entire subsection of your library that it's highlighting okay, hey, I've got all of my all of this certain type of movie in this one location, and it's fantastic. So I have one that is called my all-time favorites, okay? And right now I have it in alphabetical order. So I won't go too crazy talking about Batman because I always have way too much to say about Batman. But some of my favorites, so there's a movie called About Time that I saw in the theater with my friend Katie, and her and I usually adamantly disagree with each other on movies, and we both really enjoyed the movie and really thought it was good, and I could not believe what a good job they did with it. And because I had heard it was made by the same people that made Love Actually, and I was kind of I mean, that's a certain type of movie. There's certain connotations with the way that movie is that I don't know if I want to deal with that for an entire movie again. And it turns out it's just a standard movie, but it's it's got a little bit of a a fantasy type aspect to it. It doesn't, it's not entirely grounded in reality, but it feels like it is. It's like basically this guy can travel back in time and redo things, like do a mulligan of the things in his life that have happened that he wants to change. And obviously there's pluses and minuses to that, but I mean, like, it is a phenomenal movie. It's like a romantic comedy basically. It has its serious moments, some sad moments, but overall it's a very, it's a nice lighthearted movie where you really want to immerse yourself in what's happening. I really love it. But maybe I'll only talk about one per ep, because I don't really want to talk about 7 different fucking all-time favorite movies. It'll just kind of wipe me out. So what I was saying about amassing a movie library is, like I had been, like, with reckless abandon, just been collecting all of these different movies, like any movie that, like, and it was bad enough that, like, I didn't have the self-control to, like, tell myself, Brandon, you have not seen this movie. You don't need to own this just because it's on sale. It doesn't need to be purchased right now. You can wait until it comes on streaming, or, you get a chance to watch it somehow, But, I mean, I cannot stress it enough. Do not buy movies without watching them. Like, I used to never buy a movie without watching it, and I learned the hard way that, like, it's not a good idea to do that, like, to go out and get a movie because you're excited to see it, and then come home, and then, like, if you have that realization that you're like, man, this is actually pretty shitty, and I really wish that I hadn't purchased this, and, now I'm kind of stuck with keeping it forever, then, like, that's what'll happen. But, like, so what I ended up doing was I kind of, like, I had this moment, mid-spring, that I realized I was doing a pretty piss poor job of managing my money. I've never been the type of person who had, like, a good budget laid out or any kind of plan. It was always just kind of like I had a general idea of how much money I could spend in an average, week, day, month, whatever. And I would just only spend that and hopefully not have any hiccups, And I mean, I have a little bit of credit card debt, not like jaw-droppingly, oh my God, but, like, credit card debt that I have let get a little out of line because I have been irresponsible about making sure I pay what I need to on it to, be in a good place credit-wise. And, like, actually my credit isn't even bad, but, like, because I always make the payments, and that's really what they give a shit. Like, they would rather you be, like, balls deep in debt than, making... They'd rather you be balls deep in debt than be, like, wiping out your debt completely and not paying anything to them on a monthly basis. I mean, realistically, they want you to be paying interest, which is not ideal. I mean, you want to pay off these things. So, like, anyway, I went in and, like, I started, like, I asked my friend about, like, what he uses, because I knew he was pretty good at budgeting and stuff, and I was, like, asking him, I'm like, yeah, like, I'm trying to figure out, like, a good app to use, and I tried, like, I had tried ones in the past, and they were subpar, I didn't really, like, think they were that great, and I eventually landed on, I tried, like, Mint, which is like a budgeting / financial app. I tried Truebill, and then I landed on one that was best for me, and I think it's it should be best for most people, which is called Every Dollar. And the idea behind the name is like you have a plan for every dollar you spend every month, So it's like if you've got this much money coming in, every cent should have some kind of money or some kind of plan associated with it. And you just can't like fly by the seat of your pants all the time like I was. And so it's funny because I started planning it out, and I mean, luckily for me, like I realized that like I was wasting so much money every month. It was ridiculous. Like I couldn't even believe how much money I was wasting. And it was like so it was like I figured out how much money I had left over, and I wanted to get my credit card paid off, and I wanted it to be pretty quick. I didn't want to be like stuck dealing with the credit card debt forever. And so it's like once I got it figured out, it was like, oh my God, like I've got tons of money, because I was like at this point where it was like the weirdest fucking shit. Like I would actively seek out shit to waste my money on Amazon. It was like I would look at these like 44 Amazon things that users say they can't live without, and it would just be like some stupid fucking thing that it's like, what do you mean they can't live without that? Like I bought it and I haven't even fucking taken it out of the packaging since I got it, like what the fuck? And I mean, so it was like I had to get out of that habit. I knew that, and it was like I had to adjust my spending habits, and it was stupid stuff, I mean, but so I got my budget going, and it's very good. I can't recommend like Every Dollar. It uses the same basic premise of like a regular budget, like you might make an Excel or something. The other apps don't focus on planning enough. Like they don't tell you what you've done right or wrong, or how well you're trending or whatever you want to call it. Like, but you individually have to, like every time you make a purchase or you get income, you have to put it in the app yourself. Otherwise, unless you want to get like the premium version, which I honestly think is a bad choice. Like to get the premium version, it actively takes you out of the equation of like out of tracking your financial life. Like I mean, it completely removes you from the equation. And like I feel like if you're not actively engaged in that, then you are potentially wasting money, and you don't even you're not even aware enough of it because you're not there for it. You're not dealing with it. So I would say but I mean, obviously, with budgeting, I can only be have tight purse strings for so much. Some things you just got to spend money on. Like I bought the Batman on Blu-ray, and it came with the DVD and the digital copy, which I was happy with because I was gonna buy it digitally if I didn't get the digital copy anyway. And it was just, I mean, I haven't watched it since I got it. I saw it twice in theaters, but I'm not trying to be one of those people that like is convinced that they need to see a movie just because they like it like 6 times. Like people were telling me they'd see me in my Batman hat and they'd say, oh man, I saw the Batman 6 times in theaters. And I'm like, awesome, man, that's great. Like, what'd you do that for? Like, I mean, for me, like I saw The Dark Knight 3 times in theaters. I saw it opening night, like Thursday night, in the regular theater. I saw it the following day in IMAX, and then I saw it again with my mom, I think, which is one of those situations where it really pissed me off because I told her it was really good and she would really like it. and it took somebody at work telling her that it was a good movie, because she, like, I can get it, like, my love of Batman could probably cloud my judgment. I realize that, but, like, it's just, it's the principle of it all. And so I don't see anything wrong with, like, setting aside, like, especially, like, for me, it's the Batman. I'm not waiting until it goes on sale. I'm not doing any of that shit. I'm fucking buying it right out of the gate, and I'm going to buy it at full price, and it's, it is what it is. And I didn't buy it the first day it released on video, but I did buy it, like, within a couple of days, because I knew I wasn't going to watch it before the end of the week, because, it was 3 hours, and I'm an old man, and I only stay up until, like, 7 o'clock at night, but that's neither here nor there. Now, back to movies, okay? So, if you take all of the, my all-time favorites, and, there's quite a few of them. There's roughly like 46 is how many there are. And I adore those movies. I could probably watch them almost any time. But then there are movies that I have in a list called Never Again. And it's not even necessarily bad movies. It's just movies that I don't feel the need to ever endure again, because they were just such an unpleasant thing to sit down and watch. And some of them do suck. I mean, don't get me wrong. So there's a movie that I had wanted to see for a while. It was it's by director Frank Capra, who made It's a Wonderful Life. And a lot of his movies, like you could see where, like, his career kind of, like, started to go downhill, and he didn't, he wasn't making the same great movies he once was. But, like, I always look up on IMDb to find out how good or bad a movie is. And, I come across this movie that's on sale on Vudu that is $4.99, and it has Cary Grant, who I like. No one else that I'm a major fan of. I mean, Peter Lorre's in it, but, like, he's a fucking creepy weirdo, so I'm, I can take him or leave him. But it's called Arsenic and Old Lace. And, I'm always a little iffy on movies that are, like, that are from the era this movie's in, like the 40s, or, like, yeah, I mean, like the 40s, basically the black and white era. If it's a comedy that is not like Charlie Chaplin or Groucho Marx or Buster Keaton or, some of those, like, comedy, household names from that era, which, I mean, Charlie Chaplin would be older than the 40s, but, like, the black and white era in general. It's like, if I watch a movie from that era and it's trying to be a legitimate comedy, I can't fucking stand it. Like, it's horrible. Like, I can't say it enough. Like, they had not quite figured out what they were doing with comedy in a lot of movies. Like, they would leave it to where it was like, they're making these stupid jokes, and it's like, oh God, get the fuck out of here. That doesn't even merit a slight snicker, like, let alone, like, actually openly laughing about something. So it's like, I just tried to avoid comedies. Well, Arsenic and Old Lace was listed as, like, a crime thriller type on IMDb. And so I thought to myself, you know what? It's rated 7.9 out of 10, which is a very high rating. It's got Cary Grant. It's directed by Frank Capra. Let's do this. You know what I mean? There's no way I don't like this movie. Holy shit, it is I guess it is listed as comedy, crime, thriller, but it is horrible. Like it's like a dark comedy, which I'm even more not a fan of, and it's like, what are we doing with this? Like, what the fuck is this movie? Like, it is one of the few movies that I got like 30 to 45 minutes into, and I shut it off. I was done with it. I'm not covering this shit anymore. I'm good. So, I mean, I won't ever watch that one again, and I doubt I'll pick up where I left off and, watch the rest of it. So I'd like to talk about some. So I texted my friend Lance the other day, and I told him, "Hey man, if at some point this summer, I'd like to do some things. I'd like to go to the batting cages. I'd like to go disc golfing. I'd like to go to a baseball game, like a Lugnuts game or a Tigers game, whichever. And just and play hoops. Play a little basketball and like actually have a good time. It would be." It's really like important to me that I like, because it's like I've lost this weight, I'm down 88 pounds or whatever it is. It fluctuates. I guess it's less now, but like I've lost the weight, and it's like I'm able to be active, and it's like I want to get out there and fucking do this shit. You know what I mean? I want to have a good time. I want to exert myself physically, and I want to feel like I'm doing what I need to be doing, just to keep active and keep healthy. And I mean, I go for walks every day, but it's not quite the same as, going for, doing something that's like as exhausting as playing a real game of basketball and actually like trying to compete. That's my favorite thing. And so I'm probably actually going to I'm going to a baseball game tomorrow, not with Lance, because he's going to be working, but like I like texted my mom and asked her if she would want to go, because it's like I generally like to do stuff by myself, but I could seldom think of a sadder thing than me like just going to a Lugnuts game in Lansing with no one and just sitting in the stands alone and doing nothing but watching baseball, because concession stand food is fatty and I can't really eat it. So yeah, that's my plan for the summer. I'll have to keep you posted. So I guess we'll call this a wrap on this first episode. I think it went well. I wasn't really sure how it would be if I didn't have another person to bounce things off of, but like I'm feeling pretty good about it. I'm eager to see if people will listen and see if people have any ideas of like things they'd like to hear. I'm thinking I'll probably, like after this, I'll probably gear myself more toward movies that like reviewing movies, but like this week I just wanted to kind of do set the tone for what, what kind of stuff I have going on and what I've been seeing and things like that. All right. Have a good day, folks. Brandon at Random Reviews is performed, written, directed, produced, and edited by Brandon Griffiths. Background audio is credited to Clankfield from freesound.org. Please look for the link in the episode description. Theme music is performed by Augusto Diniz from Fiverr.